Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com.
Why you need to be street smart in Venezuela. Today we discuss. Venezuelan society is kind of funny because by one hand you have very educated people, very skillful people, hardworking people with, until a certain degree, good values. However, Venezuelans are slick. They like to, bend the rules a little bit. And when I say a little bit, it's not a little bit, it's a lot. And of course, don't mention how the institutions work or how business work, and it's a funny thing. You need to be you need to be savvy on the head in order to navigate all the things that you have to do within Venezuela. So now what happened is that you need to be street smart in order to do the things that you want to do or you need to do in Venezuela and do it successfully. So that's why you need to be street smart, but also you have to rely on good people on your network, have a good network in order to try and get the best results within Venezuela. And what I'm seeing lately, especially with the younger people, but even with the not so young people, is that they're relying a lot, with internet, information, IT, social media, applications, and so on and so on. So they're doing their due diligence, some of them, and good for them. However, and I mentioned this a bunch of times, you cannot Google your way in Venezuela. You cannot chat GPT your way into Venezuela. You cannot AI your way into Venezuela. It's kind of tricky, and that's what I'm trying to explain on this video, is that it's not like you're going to have everything figured out just using applications or Googling stuff, because it's not what happens. Let's start by legal issues. What happens is that if you're Googling anything about Venezuela, you want to see some laws, some requirements, some bureaucracy. Very good. And you think that's it. I just have to follow the rules on this, this thing, this particular piece of paper, particular article, or particular website. And I just have to follow the steps, and that's it. Like a cooking recipe, or like manual instructions on how Venezuela works. But sadly, ain't the case. First, things change a lot in Venezuela, swiftly. The second thing is that the manuals and procedures that you want to see, and the thing about, especially with Western citizens, is they want to try to standardize procedures. And it's a good thing. Actually, I try to do it myself. However, in practice, in Venezuela, things work differently. There is a specific mindset, there is specific things to do, that many situations that you have to maneuver on a certain way. And most internationals, especially Western internationals, they don't know how to do it. So on the legal side, you always are going to need assistance, especially on bureaucracy, especially filling forms. And there is something that changes a lot, and there is nothing you can do about it. Just be well informed on how things are getting done. Now let's talk business. What happened with business and investing, or whatever, any exchange, any transaction within Venezuela? Here's how basically it works. If you're from abroad, if you're a Western citizen, and let's say you've already been in Mexico or Colombia, first, and I mentioned this a bunch of times, is that unlike the Mexican or Colombian market, where internationals are a big deal, so there are businesses that cater towards internationals, like real estate, like touristic operators and hotels, and so on and so on. And they care a lot about internationals, and they market to them and so on. Well, in Venezuela, it's not the case. In Venezuela, it's unprofitable to cater towards internationals as well. Well, unless my business is catered towards internationals, and still I have some issues, but this is the funny thing. So basically, there is not a business that caters exclusively towards internationals. They care towards the high-end Venezuelan, the Venezuelan that has a great purchasing power. Hotels, restaurants, touristic operators, real estate agencies, and so on, because most Venezuelans are broke, except a small middle class of less than 10%, and millionaires that we have on the country that are owing 0.2%, something on that order. Very good. And they make most of the consumption. So what will happen is when you try to do things as an international, there is going to be a lot of lost in translation, kind of like that movie. And what is going to happen is the process is not going to be as smoothly as you want because it's not catered towards international. The other thing is, the gringo prices, of course, in any part of Latin America and even the rest of the world, Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia, places like that, you see a lot of gringo prices. That is, you get an extra price for being international. Well, if you come to Venezuela, and other thing that I mentioned a lot is Venezuela is not cheap. Many times you think that you're getting the gringo price, but actually the gringo price, every Venezuelan gets the gringo price. So most likely you're not gonna be on the negotiating position that you might want, or you are hoping, compared to, let's say, Mexico, where you have a population, of course, the average Mexican is not rich or anything like that. And since you come from abroad, you are considered the wealthy one, unless, of course, you are being taken care of on any given business that cares to, high income people, like luxury hotels and luxury restaurants, places like that. Well, and you are seen just as the important guy, even if you are middle class on your home country. What will happen in Venezuela is that you're going to come to a place, and most businesses, unless there are, random supermarkets or random street vendors, stuff like that, you're gonna be seen, unless you are wealthy, you're gonna be seen as less of compared to the high income Venezuelan that usually gets the premium service, and you are gonna think they are trying to screw you over, something like that. And on that particular case, it's not the case because, like I said, this business catered towards the high-end Venezuelan, not the middle-class international. And lastly, when you see prices, let's say real estate, can be a restaurant, can be hotels, can be anything like that, you're going to think that are overpriced. And what happens is that Venezuelans have this mindset, this issue, they always want to charge premium prices over what they think is the fair market value. So there's going to be a lot of confusion on the process because Venezuelans, in most cases, are going to sell premium prices, not the gringo prices. It's a total different dynamic. It's for everyone, for gringos, for locals, whatever might be the case. They're going to sell at a premium on most cases. So if you don't know the market, you are not going to know what is the right market value price. Now, let's talk about dating. And this is the most funny thing. Because many internationals, of course, and especially Westerns, are interested on meeting and mingling and dating Venezuelan females. Very good. What happens is Venezuelan females, when you're on a good grace with them, they're cool, they're fun, and actually great companionship. However, if it's not the case, Venezuelan women are very slick. Also very, they're very slick, they're very cunning, so they're going to trick you to getting their own way until kingdom come if you don't know what you're doing. And that's why you need to be street smart. And if you think that you can meet consistently these beautiful Venezuelan women on Tinder or something like that, or even on Instagram, what happens is you're setting for most likely a scam. So that's why you need to be street smart with these kind of women, the Venezuelan women, on most cases. Now, when things work out, believe me, the ride is very smooth. So I'm going to close the video with a silver lining that is actually Venezuelans are very good and very friendly with internationals. And this is something that is being a cultural thing in Venezuela since many years when Venezuela was rich. Venezuelans actually, the Venezuelans treat very well the international, especially the Western international. So if you mingle and you get on good graces with an average Venezuelan that maybe speaks a little bit in English and you maybe speak a little bit of Spanish, that can work for you. Now remember, the average Venezuelan usually Venezuelans live each one on their bubble, under different circumstances. So they're not going to be good advisors, and something that I mentioned a bunch of times, the average Venezuelan is not going to be a good advisor regarding specific things that you want to do on the country. However, they are going to be very cool regarding, you need someone to hang out, maybe go to a place or show you something. They're very cool on that regard. They're very friendly, and they're most likely not going to screw you over. Bad people, we have it everywhere. Venezuela is no exception. Or you have to be careful that if you need a specific thing, don't rely on an average Venezuelan, rely on a specific Venezuelan. Let's say you need a lawyer, look a lawyer. Don't talk about laws with some random guy that you meet on a liquor store. Very good. But now the good thing, and this is when I want to close, I like to close my videos with good news, is that our Venezuelans are very cool treating foreigners, especially Western foreigners. So on that regard, nothing to worry about. Just take care of business, know what you're doing, and you're going to be pretty much fine.
Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again, and have a nice day.